Welcome to Honey Do You, the podcast where we feel like height is just a suggestion because I have been lying about mine for about the last 10 years. I'll tell you, depending on what my weight is, I may add a half an inch, subtract one, add a whole inch just so it looks better on the BMI. But who cares about BMI crap anyway, right? All right. So I talk a lot about what it means to be untamed and undefined. And I think it's really important to kind of go through those words and figure out, like, what does that mean to me and how can you apply it to your own life and what it means to you? So to do that, I have a co-host today who is one of my closest friends, one of the most amazing people that I know. Honestly, to me, she is the epitome of what it means to be untamed and undefined. So Melinda Jean, my adventure bae, MJ, all of the names, because depending on how much I love you, will tell you how many nicknames I have for you. Welcome.
Thank you so much for asking me here and even just having this type of conversation about me. It's pretty fun, pretty exciting. I love all my names. I love all my names.
I change it depending on what we're talking about, like depending on what the day it is. But I'm really, really excited to have you, one, as a co-host so people can get to know you because I know you're going to be back. And two, to kind of talk about, one, how we met and then how those words or what they mean to you and how you've become the person you've become. I think it's really, really cool. I know a lot of your story, but I feel like there's so many people that are going to connect with you in the next few minutes. So should we start with how we met? Like,
yeah.
What is it, a meet cue? Is that what they're saying? Like meet cues is a new word now?
Well, I don't know. Trying to keep up with these young people and all these words. I don't know. I got BRB, be right back. That's about
do they use that anymore?
I know it's not, and now it's not even a thing. I remembered it for no reason.
Right, we're showing our age right now. Look.
So wisdom. It's wisdom, not age. But yeah, speaking of age, it was actually technology that put us together because technically we met via Facebook.
Was it Facebook first? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because Miss Lindsay here, another person who wears many, many hats, wanted to start a group of women to like work out. Really what it was an accountability. Like, hey, I need to get out there. I need my kid to socialize. And I know a thing or two about this. And I think that's what you kind of had prefaced on Facebook. And I saw this little thing. I saw people like going to these meetups. And I'm like, yeah, I really want to do that. I really want to be a part of something like that. It's convenient. It's right here. And at that time, I had my last child of 5 at home with me. The 4 are out in school. We're on island. We're adventuring. But you can only do so much adventuring on your own. And that's why that idea of connecting with other women, which was typically not my thing. I don't like women. They backstab each other. They're dramatic. And I finally hit a season where I was like, okay, I really want to make some friends. How do you make friends as an adult? And, right. And so it was the Facebook thing. And conveniently enough, all the previous ones, the events had never taken place because it was like rained out, poor timing, just things was happening. So eventually our schedules aligned and I showed up to the first meetup at the little playground on Aliamani Military Reservation.
Right. And this was, so we haven't said, this was in Hawaii. So both of us military spouses, both husbands stationed in Hawaii. And I don't know about for you, I know you said this was after your last baby because Mandy actually has 5 now, not babies anymore. 3 of them out of the house, full grown, 2 younger, 5 babies. And I had 2 with me in Hawaii. I have 2 older stepkids, but two babies with me. And they were, I think, I had 2 under 2 at the time. And this was the first time that I was not going to work full time. Once we decided we were PCSing to Hawaii, I was like, I'm going to work from home. Mm-hmm. And one of the ways I was like, I got to figure out how to meet people was creating that group to do Monday, I think 3 days a week in the morning was the original thing. Monday, Wednesday. Oh, was it 2?
It
was 2 days a week.
2 days.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be like a Monday and a Wednesday, like something like that.
Yeah. And it was just a call out on Facebook, finding one of those military pages on Facebook. And it's like, hey, if any moms want to work out at the park, meet me here. And I think I had it out for a couple of almost like 1 or 2 months before anybody decided to come. And it wasn't until I said, is anyone interested in doing the Spartan race that's coming? And then there were some girls that joined in because I think most of us, if not all, had never done one before. So it was like, and that was so crazy that's the call that has the women that they show up. It's like nothing else, but then we put a Spartan race in front of them. They're like, yeah, we're coming. Yeah,
Yeah, I want to be
that's
badass.
pretty dope.
I mean, I think at that time I was approaching 30s.
Mhm.
So, and it was one of those really pivotal moments because you're on island, you're away from everything. I mean, I'm used to military life, but it was a different kind of military life.
Yeah.
And all the kids, like my purpose of being a mom had started not being as filled as a schedule because the kids were away at school and I only had one and I'd been juggling five. I could do that.
Right.
So, but this is also on the heels of losing my mom at an early age and you know, just one of those, and the way that we lost her.
Mhm.
For those who don't know, she had passed away due to complications from a car accident. It had left her quadriplegic. She survived 3 months like that. And so great time that you get back together with somebody. But after, by the way, more background, Hawaii was the place she always wanted to go back to. And in fact, that is her resting place. We took her back, my sister and I, to Lanakai. So it was really great that we got orders to go back to this place. So every day I had this reminder of these promises I made to her and these life lessons, those last 3 months that she had communicated to me of like how to live the rest of your life without your mom, you know, without that guidance. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to make friends. I'm going to live every day like it's my last. And I totally YOLO'd for sure.
Right.
And I think that was it opened the opportunity where I was not really interested in being friends with other people. I was more so just people in front of my path. That's fine. But I was like, no, I'm making a community. That was something that she had encouraged me was make a community. Don't isolate yourself.
And that's so dope because the first meeting that people actually came to, the first meetup, was at the end of it. I think it was maybe no more than 7 to 10 girls there. But at the end, everybody's packing up. We're getting ready to go. I think I had thrown some workout together. And I'm going to leave. And Mandy stops me. I don't even know if I know her name at this point, right?
No.
She stops me. She's like, so you come back tomorrow? I'm all in. And it just started this discussion. And so I think we got each other's Facebook contact information. And she messaged me when I got home. And it was like, if we're going to do this, we better go all in. And we literally set up a schedule. And she started, I think we decided like 4 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday.
It was right there. It was right there on the spot at the little playground where I was like, well, if this is going to actually do anything for my body, I've got to do it 4 days a week. And you're like, well, I got 2 days. I was like, I'll do the other two. You're like Monday, Wednesday. I'm like, I'll do Tuesday, Friday.
And that's literally first day meeting after an hour, barely knowing each other's name. And now we've decided to do this together. And that I think was serendipity. Like who does that? Who decides minutes within meeting people? We're going to schedule, we're going to create workouts. We split up days and we'll be here, rain or shine.
It's really important though. Yeah. I think we need to include here, Lindsay. I'm pretty just to set the standard of where we started. We were excited to do one push-up off of our knees.
Oh yeah,
to get that accomplished and that workout, like, oh my gosh, I just did a push-up. I did it on my own.
No,
that's where it started.
True. We both were straight, not novices, I won't say, but did we have an understanding of physicality and body? No, because we were just beginning to. This was really starting from scratch to a Spartan race. That's really what it was. And by the time I left Island, how many races had we done? 3 or 4?
Well, it depends because it's a trifecta. So here's the thing, friends, is that when Hawaii Spartan would come, they would do it in a weekend. So you got all 3 races in a weekend, and that's all you have for a year. So you're like, I've got to do all 3. So a couple years plus we did the stadium one. That was the one we
did first. A ton. So I think it's a really cool story for growth because both of us, I will say, without Mandy, I would have done maybe that first Spartan and been like, okay, I can do this. And we ended up doing 10Ks, half marathons. We ended up hiking almost any hike that you can think of across the island of Oahu. Creating retreats for women. Like and this was like for free. We just did this because we wanted community and love. And so I think that's just one. And it gives you an idea of who Mandy is and how she shows up for herself and for other people within minutes. And before we started the podcast, I kind of wrote down a lot of words, right? And all of these words contain things that Mandy does or has done. And so I'm going to read some of these words off this list. And afterwards, I'm going to ask you, how do you feel hearing all of these things that kind of are in your wheelhouse? So you do yoga, you do photography, woodworking, like her kitchen table is beautifully insane and she built it. You sew because you taught me how to make pillows. Do you remember that? You cook with seasoning. And if you know what I'm going, you know where I'm going with this.
I know where you're
You
going.
are incredibly creative, artistic, and an environmentalist. You know survival skills. My first not hiking trip, my first camping trip, she taught me how to camp. Mom of 5. You travel. There's no fear in you. So hearing just a minimum of some of the things that you do, how do you feel like hearing some of the things that you have done or capable of? And I know I left a whole bunch off of the list.
You know, it's one of those things. You're always so busy looking for something. Like, think of this, if you can imagine, like, right, you're looking for this one thing and you're shifting through shit. You're shifting through it, getting through everything, and you're just getting through it all, looking for this one thing. By the time you even find the actual thing you're looking for, you don't remember what it was at this point. You're like lost your way. And I feel like that's how my hobbies and skill sets and experiences have been. I just kind of came across it. I'm like, oh, well, if I want to, let's face it, the yoga, I just wanted to look cool in a photo on the top of a mountain when you work really hard to get to these hikes. But then I learned, oh, but you got to do these transitions to get into that pose. I'm like, well, and then if you're going to do transitions, you might as well kind of understand the flexing of your body and the mechanics of it. And then, well, to really connect, you got to connect your mind. It's like one thing to another, to another, to another. So when I hear those things, it's very inspiring in itself and tiresome sometimes to think of all the things that I've done and the way that other people see me, because you really just see yourself as a hot mess of collected items you just chucked together.
I think that's a really cool.
Happy accidents.
I like that. It's see yourself as a hot mess of things chucked together. But do you, or how do you view the words themselves, untamed and undefined? Like, would you consider yourself to be in those wheelhouse of things? Do you see yourself as kind of coloring outside of the lines? And
that is a beautiful question. So I've sat on that word. And there's even a book, Glennon Doyle, she had wrote about Untamed, and it really like brought this idea and actually gave me the word that I had been searching for a really long time. I could never figure out who I was or what I was. And everyone's like, what's your word? What's your word? That was really popular for a short time there, right? Mm-hmm. And so when Untamed came, it resonates with me, but it's nothing I would have ever described myself as. It's never descriptive by the word itself and the definition. It's only by my actions would I ever say that I'm untamed, because it's when someone draws a line in the sand, I have no problem crossing it. Like, oh, that's the line. And I'm like, oh, there's a boundary now. I got to get out of the box. Oh, there's a standard. Oh, there's an expectation that I don't agree with and I never set. Well, now I'm going to break that expectation. So it's one of those things. You never set your mind to do it. It's only in the aftermath of looking through all the shit you shoveled through. You're like, oh, I don't really follow the rules. I don't really.
Did you grow into that, or is that kind of a personality trait that you've had since you were little? Were you always like I'm going to touch that red button a couple of times. I just want to see what it's like. Or you
always touch the button, paint, always. And I should say, to credit my parents, they were very, very honest that one's going to touch the red button. We might as well let her touch the red button, let her know what's going to happen. Get the lawyer on speed dial. You just never know. I was definitely I would not say I followed my intuition, and impulsivity was a very thin line. And I loved taking carpe diem was something I lived by. So I would never have considered it that I was untamed or anything like that. But I think everybody else recognized it in me. And it was when I became an adult that I realized it doesn't have to be a dirty word. It doesn't have to be a like as if I was like lacking femininity because of that. And you're too masculine. You're right. Too much society. Yeah. You're too much. You're too wild. You're too loud. You're too extra. And I'm like, I think I'm just the right bit. Your cup might be too small for me to fill. I don't know.
I like that so untamed, not as a dirty word, because if we're speaking on women, and that's kind of who we are, we're geared toward. A lot of what we've done has been 100% like towards women to show ourselves that we're capable of way more than we thought, right? Like I said before, I would have never adventured out the way that I did. Some of the hikes that we did, I was scared shitless. Like, let's be real about it. But like, there was something about Mandy's energy that was like, I got this. And if I'm going to fall, this is a great story to have, right? If this is the last day, I can at least say I was doing something like amazing when I went out, right?
It was a good view.
It's crazy because you think of like, if you think of the word untamed, you think of like wild, right? Like you think of a child with no rules or regulations, wild. But it's not so much that. It's just being willing to accept yourself as you are and letting go of those assumptions and judgments that everybody around you has for what a little girl is supposed to be. Right.
Oh, absolutely.
I remember, and this is so crazy because I remember my dad when I was really little. And I grew up in a house full of boys, right? I had bunches of brothers, one sister, and my sister was she's a crazy tomboy, right? She did shot put, track and field. And I remember like sitting one day, and I think I was probably in jeans or something, but sitting like my brothers do, legs open. And I remember my dad saying, "When's the last time you sat like a lady?" And that has always stuck with me
Yeah.
because in my head, it was like, oh, this is not ladylike. But I'm like, do we have to be? What is ladylike? Right? Does that change for that word in itself changes for anybody that says it, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's a certain personality or a certain trait that has to be and behavior that's associated with those feelings. But then, we I think the newer generations are bringing a lot of light to the hypocrisy and the whole oxymoron of what a woman is, and then we're defining what a woman is, and all of these things. And it's kind of like throw like a girl. That was like one of the huge campaigns that people started attacking. Mm-hmm. And it's like, yeah, I'm pretty awesome. I can throw pretty far. And it wasn't until later in life till I realized, like, oh, you're insulting me. Well, right. But I throw just as far as you. Right. If not further, I don't understand. Right. And I think some of that might come back to having a dad that was almost in the opposite way. I was the youngest of 4 girls. So at this time, I was treated kind of like the tomboy, and I was allowed to be dirty. They knew not to put me in a dress because that thing was not going to last long. I didn't have the rules. I didn't have the same rules because by the time they got to me, they were broken. They were like,
let her run free. She's good.
Yeah. They're like, these 3 other girls broke us. Like, let that wild thing do what she's going to do because she's going to climb the tree anyways. Right? So they learned not to put me in a dress. But then I lost a lot of who I was or what I thought I was, because then I thought that I wasn't, because what do you interpret, right? I thought I wasn't pretty. I thought that I just lacked that ability to be sophisticated, intelligent, all these things that we make these idols of women to be. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, I'm not those things. I'm just messy. I'm loud. I'm clumsy. I'm dirty. But I like this. I like being this way. And then I have my 3 gorgeous, amazing, beautiful sisters, so elegant in their own way. Mm-hmm. So when you see that, you start living in those boxes. And so that comes with that, the untamed, but it also comes with the word that you used about being like undefined. And in a way, I was undefined because I wasn't those things. I was this. I was everything else. Like everything. They told me what I wasn't. That I was not quiet. I was not this. I was not that. So then I was like, ooh, I have a whole other limit to explore. And that I think was fun and interesting. Like I said, it was just disengaging or not agreeing. Those agreements, right? Like not agreeing that just because I'm these things and I'm not that doesn't mean that I can't be that. And that
I love that. And I like, to me, like the word undefined, I don't want to sit in a niche. And when I started like Honeydew You and everything, I had such a hard time because they tell you when you're marketing something or you're starting something, you need to fit a criteria of people. Is it women between 20 and 25? Is it, race and all of these things that help you define? I just have this problem with fitting in any niche. Like, I want to be all things. I want to put my hands in everything at least once. Like, I don't want anyone to say these are the things that Lindsay does and that's all she does. I want to do everything. Like you said, this jumble of things, and just willing to dip my toe and just kind of like dive into some things, try a couple things, but I don't want you to ever peg me and say this is all she does. Like, I love that word undefined.
And that's what's hard though, is that people are going to limit you because that's the only side of you that they know. I've got some people who think I am straight up just a bitch, and that's all I will ever be to them because they've typecasted that one role of what I'm going to be. And then to you, I'm the adventure bae. I'm a YOLO. I'm also the person you could probably call at 3 a.m. and be like, I need your help. Okay, cool, I'm coming. Yeah. Like, I'm not gonna. It's a good thing about being a little impulsive or making impulsive choices is if it sits well with me, I'm gonna go and do it 2 feet in, and then I'll think about it later.
So let's talk about that word impulsive, because we have sidebar conversations. We have talked about that word impulsive a whole bunch, because sometimes I question, was that an impulsive act? And I think you do the same thing. Is impulsivity, is it a direct link? Or so do you feel like impulsivity kind of segues, like your ability to be spontaneous kind of segues into the ability to kind of live outside of those lines and be my adventure bae?
I do. I think ADD, ADHD is very stigmatized sometimes. And I think we grow up in a time frame where, because of that stigmatization, because of that, right? Because of those notions and preconceived thoughts, is that we had to learn really quiet coping skills, right? You had to learn different things. And so, and you learn really quick. So nowadays, if I were to have been raised with these same impulsive thoughts and these same actions, if I was then brought in today's society, I'd probably be easily diagnosed. The difference is that my coping skills, the reason why it's even more highlighted now is those coping skills aren't working out very well. But okay, so back to the question though, that impulsivity, I think that it's just genuine to my nature. And it supports the spontaneousness. The reason when it doesn't serve me anymore is when there's actually a negative to impulsivity. It's not just like I fully know where this is going to go. I can think in that split second, like, ooh, I'm going to be broke when I do this. That's a tomorrow problem. I'll solve that later, right? But it's if I'm not in alignment with my soul. If I'm doing something because I'm trying to please somebody else, which is typically the case, and it doesn't resonate with me, I'm not listening to me, I'm listening to, oh, do this really quick because it's going to be a quick solution and you're going to help them and you're going to be great because you're helping them. That's when that impulsivity gets me into trouble. Like, a bad marriage.
And how many times has that impulsivity led you to something amazing? Like, I know that you have a list of certifications, like wilderness stuff, that you're like, I just want to sign up for a class, and it's like, go, go, go. But I know that they benefited you. So how many of those things can
Honestly,
you say?
countless. And even that impulsive marriage that I alluded to, it was because I was at a stoplight and there was someone distracted. I'm like, well, hello. Like, and so
all it takes.
Right. That's all it takes. Like, and honestly, if you think like every journey begins with a single step, that's kind of like the mantra for my impulsivity, where it's like, well, every great adventure starts with a step. You have to make a choice. So I'm going to quickly make this choice. It's when I sit and shift in indecision that I'll spiral into something negative. So it's like, I like jumping, even if it's even if like that choice doesn't serve me later in the future. I'm like, just don't make that choice again. And then I move on and you're just at peace with it. But, I think being undefined is such a flattering word because we live in a society where everything has a label.
I
everything
love that.
has a title, right? And then even if I'm impulsive, I'm not impulsive. I just make impulsive choices, right? So like, right? Nobody is messy. Brene Brown's notorious for this. Nobody is messy, but people can make a mess.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Nobody is fat. People have fat. Like it's our language, the way that we use it sometimes. So I do make impulsive choices, but a lot of times I've made so many in my life and I've been able to just trust in the universe or trust with my intuition and my gut, if you will, that man, it leads to something great. I've got beautiful children that came out of that marriage. At one point in time, a great friendship. I've got amazing memories. Yeah, there were shit ones, but there were some really good ones too. And so many life lessons learned.
I was about to say, now your long term, your big love, right? How many years later? So it teaches you what you don't want, right? Like
that's actually the funny thing. Like we both came out of let's say we just got from the airport and we had our bags. Okay. Not physically from the airport, but that baggage, it was there. We had just packed that crap. It was there. And we're very aware of how heavy each other's bags were. And we're like, look, this is what I want.
Right.
I know exactly what I want. Here's my list. You're checking off these boxes. This is great. Because we were taught this is how you make a marriage work. This is how you find somebody. We did it the romantical way, and that did not work for either one of us. We did the things that, it's the right thing to do choices. It did not work.
Step 1, step 2, step 3, by the book. Yeah. Yeah.
It did not work. It did not work at all. There wasn't happiness with it. It was all like a corporation could have just made that investment in that place. But with him, it was trying to align what my heart wanted and what my soul wanted, what my brain knew I needed to have a supportive family and foundation for my children, because that was a priority to me at that time. And so same for him. And then that's been through seasons of marriage, like marriage. Ooh, that's a whole other topic, right?
Right.
But the impulsivity to say hi to him and like follow through on that, it led me down the greatest path ever to this guy, saying YOLO, saying, hey, I'm moving across the country, but we should stay in touch. That worked out.
And I feel like through all of it, you still stayed true to yourself. Like you've never had to sit down or had a moment where you sat down with yourself and said, I don't really like this version of me. I'm going to recreate it. You're you are who you are, 100%. And that's what I truly appreciate.
What we do, we perform as females, like say might be safe said for males and for other sexes, that they perform to the duties you're currently assigned to.
Yeah.
Right. And when you're with a partnership or even a friendship, we show up in different ways because we're performing to that. So especially when you or I are clinging to the side of a mountain, I gotta perform to that where I'm like, yeah, this is fine.
We
We're
got
totally
this.
good.
This is easy, right?
And I hear you in the background going, whoop, whoop. And I'm like, oh, she's fine.
It's a whole different story.
It's a whole
And
different story.
if you are one of our girls who were on that hike with me, and if you recall 30 minutes of me falling and busting my ass down the side of a mountain, it was so muddy. Every 30 seconds, I bust my butt, whoop, 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 down
I'm
again.
surprised you didn't turn it into a slide. I'm surprised none of us turned it into a slide. It was very eroded and then wet. So
that was a good height.
But either way, you perform to those duties, right? And that's what I loved about our balance. And I think it's benefited us because neither one of us had fit a specific role. We are not defined by a specific thing. You are just amazing in what you've been able to show up as. Now, there might be things that you're stronger at leading and you're maybe more comfortable leading, especially when it comes to organization and planning. And then I'm like this creative thought sometimes, and like a bubble comes out my mouth. I'm like, oh, we should do this. And you're like, well, here's how we got to get it done. What do we call it? Manifesting and generating, right?
Yeah. But I think that's one of the great things about creating community and finding folks that are not like you. I think so many of us are so set in communities of people that reflect who we are. You and I, we're really like on paper so different, but all of our seasons kind of align in the same way. What one of us experienced, another is going through a year later, and we always, mirror each other in so many cool ways. And your quote unquote impulsiveness is spontaneity to me, and it's something that I lack, right? I am ABCD organized, and you'll be like, I got this idea, let's roll with it, and then I'll say, okay, well, this is how we can process it, and it just works so beautifully. So I really feel like letting go of that need to have people just like you in your circle and kind of going outside of that lines, like what I feel like what we've created has been amazing and beautiful, and I feel like it would not have been the same way if we were so alike, if we're not both untamed and undefined in our own facets.
Oh yeah. I feel like the commonality that I'm noticing with women and communities that I'm involved with, especially even in my current job, I work with a lot of children. So I get to see the parents that come and drop them off. And of course we have those conversations, like you as a teacher, right?
Right.
You see these conversations, but what I'm noticing is it's like almost one of two things. It's either somebody wants to be accepted or they want to be authentic. And so I feel like especially the good group of friends that we have that I know are all going to come make their appearance here, is that it was almost very serendipitous that we all came together, but we're each individually different.
So different
in our circles. We are completely different, but we're unique in the sense that we're authentic to who we are. So we each have something different to bring. We have something to learn. And it's not that none of us have nothing in common. It's that when a topic comes up, we want to relate to that. We're curious about it. We want to hear the hard things and have those hard conversations we've had, right? And then you have people who just want to be accepted, and they're the chameleons, where it's like, maybe I haven't thought about this, but you're going to put it to the side because you just want to be accepted in this group. Right. Maybe that color's not for you, but well, everyone else is wearing this. Wednesdays we wear pink. That mentality will come in there where women start. I had a lady who just begrudgingly was like, I need to set up a class. I'm trying to make friends with these moms and I have nothing in common with them. She was trying to set up an archery class. I'm like, this will work out well. This is going to be awesome.
I left that one out, Mandy. I did not say that you were an archery instructor.
I mean, if we start going down that road, Lindsay, this will be a whole other conversation. But it was the thing though, like she wanted to do these things and wanted to be here. And I just saw her just fighting with herself. And of course she's from Guam. So we have that and she had been in Hawaii. So we're talking about Hawaii and different parts of the island. And she's like, oh, I miss the culture there. It's so accepting. And then here she's fighting because she's like, she knows who she wants to be, but if she's who she wants to be, it's not going to fit in this group. That's the hard part.
And I wonder, what would it be like for all of us if, regardless of what space we are in, we show up as ourselves and are okay to be in that spirit, in that seat of just being authentically who we are. I was telling you the other day that for the first time in my life, I feel authentically like myself in
Mhm.
every space that I am in. And it,
Yeah.
before my well, now ex-husband, current partner, weird, long story, whatever. Um, I, he would say, and we talked about this, corporate Lindsay, how I
Mhm.
showed up in the work setting was completely different than how I showed up. And I think for people of color that, you can call it code switching or what have
Yeah.
you. But it was just if you don't really, I'm gonna be kind and polite to everybody, but there's your surface layer. And I think now I am myself in all facets, in the classroom, at the gym, on the podcast. Like, this is who I am, 100% inherently me. I'm not changing for anybody. And so I just wonder what a release that would be for everybody in these spaces to just show up as they are, crazy and all, like loving and dynamic, and not fear the thoughts of other people, not fearing those judgments, and just be who you are,
I think I'm curious for you. So I've got a question for you. So when we met, um, and I was like, here I am. I was ready to be authentic. I was tired of the shit show games and pretending to be some. I wanted to give you the best version of myself because I wanted to make a friend and I wanted to make a soul friend, right?
Right.
Felt there, the intuition, impulsivity was there. I was like, yeah, this is my person. I don't know why, but we know each other. And I'll never forget, we were walking around the crater at night and you had said something. It disclosed, it was just a different shift of you. And I was like, oh, we're friends now. I know it. So my question to you is, how did you feel being able to let that guard down? Because quite honestly, I'm the opposite. Like you said, I'm literally almost literally everything opposite of what you could have been. And to connect with someone like me and to let that guard down, how was that for you? What brought you to that point?
I think it was because you showed up as yourself at all times, good, bad, indifferent, spicy, whatever. I didn't worry about what was underneath because
Mm-hmm.
you were who you were. And I think for me in relationships, it is all about like, I want to get down deep. And, I'm always talking about peeling that onion, and whenever we had these circles, I'm asking the questions and I'm not necessarily answering them, but I
No.
want to ask because I want to figure out who is around me. I'm just really interested in knowing the people that are around me. And when I realize that you are who you are, like, there's no pretenses there. Like, I don't have to, this is my person because I don't have to worry about what's underneath. Like, there's no BS. And I think I guess sometimes if we all showed up in that same way, just then people don't have to worry about who they're getting or whether, so many women say, I don't have friendships with women. Girl, it's because you got the wrong type of friends. It's because
Right?
those aren't your people. And so it's
Mm-mm.
really about finding those people that are authentically who they say they are, like good, bad, and different, and not afraid to show the crazy sometimes. And I hate that word with women because I feel like that word crazy is so horrible. But show the wild or whatever
Mm-hmm.
it is. Show the true honesty of who they are. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
so freaking important.
To not be so reserved.
Yeah.
When we think wild, we think of, for me, I'll think of like a lioness who's
Mhm.
attacking, getting dinner that night, or something like that. We think of these, especially if you think of the human species, we think of these erratic behaviors, and they're loud and big, and it makes no logical sense of why they're behaving that way. And the truth is, that's not wild. We are all inherently wild. We all have a primitive part of our brain.
Mm.
When you see a spider, that's a squealer meal. So many of us squeal. I'm not eating that fuzzy thing, right?
The squealer, Neil. I like it.
It is. It's the lizard part. It is in there. It's the fight or flight, right? Like, we are not so far apart from that. Humans have only been around for arguably a couple 100,000 years, and that's if you go all the way to. It depends on if you agree with some of the theories, right? That's a whole
Right.
other different discussion. Let's just say intellectually, what we agree is a couple thousand years that we've had
Mhm.
elevated humans,
Right.
and with making advancements. We have not come that far. We are, I was sitting there teaching people about a hedgehog. A hedgehog. These guys have been around for 15 million years. And it's just a little lizard in a ball with little spikes. And I'm like, yeah, they kind of got this figured out. I don't know how
Right.
long humans are going to be around.
They can
But,
survive.
right. But we are, and I think I was saying something to you about this. Like, we are a really fun, I love studying species. So I like the human race. I like to study the human species because we are ridiculously weird. And when we think wild, we think erratic behavior, but wild doesn't necessarily mean that. That's just the term we've made it mean.
Right.
To me, wild is being true to who you are inside. It means being connected to the earth. It means knowing everything around you. And we get so busy chasing some finish line that we keep freaking moving each
Tough.
time. You know,
Hmm.
what is it? Keeping up with the Joneses. Guess what? After you caught up with the Joneses, now you're going to go catch up with the Heatroffs. And then after you catch up with them, you're going to go catch up with the Martins. And after the Martins, you're going to keep catching up with some other new family that's outside of where you are.
Right.
And I was just having a discussion with Will, like, here we are in a very comfortable home in a safe neighborhood. Our children are doing well for themselves. And even then, I was sitting there thinking to myself, like, oh, what would I have a house built? What would it look like? How do I want this to be? And I'm like,
Why?
fuck, what I have is fine.
Yeah.
Like, why am I moving my finish line? Because this is fine right here. This is more than what I need.
Right.
But it's funny how we do that. We'll move that finish line. But back to that whole primitive brain and the wild, it's naturally who you are inside yourself. It's there, and every now and then when you don't conform to society's standard, that's the wild. That's the
Who
you
you
that's
are.
like, I'm my own me. That's not what this needs to be. So, and not to bring up this topic too much, it's not so much that, but you have a lot of people discussing pronouns, and I won't talk any more than that. There's a bunch of different pronouns. And part of me is like, it goes back to that label system. Everything has to have a label. And so if you want to redefine yourself and who you want to be with what you align with, well, then you got to have a label for it. Well, some things are undefined. Some things don't have to have a label. You don't have to explain yourself. And if you're in an environment that doesn't accept you, just change your environment.
I think that's the hard part. Most people we're always looking for acceptance,
Yeah.
right? And if a little bit of us just says it's okay, maybe in
Mm-hmm.
this facet of my life, I don't really need that acceptance of people around me. I'm healthy. I'm loving. I'm giving joy. I'm receiving joy. If you're in that facet, who gives two shits about the acceptance,
But
right?
that's
I'm
what
not
it is,
hurting
right? Right?
anyone.
It's
It's just sitting in self, not worrying about the thoughts, opinions, ideas, validation, or acceptance of people around you. Just being inherently who you are beneath all of the mess, right?
from
Accepting
a
your
young
mess.
age. That's what we do.
Yeah.
Women specifically. Now, again, it's changing. Men, I think the same unfairness goes both ways. I do say,
Yeah.
I'm going to say that I
There's an
do see that going.
expectation put on
I
what
do.
a man, and
It's
there's
a
so much talk
different
now. We're
thing.
not going to get into it, but there's so much talk about
Exactly.
what is
So I don't
masculine,
want
what
to
is a man.
highlight
Yeah.
the women without like acknowledging and aware that there is an equally unfair
Right.
expectation on the other sex as well. But I think about this, and I can't remember who it was, but they were talking about, when you had children over, and I've witnessed this, I don't know how many times. I've been a part of this how many times. When you have a group of women and you ask them, would you like something to eat? And they all look at each other. Do you have to, are you hungry? Are you hungry? Are you hungry? No one ever like, am I hungry?
Am
Now,
I
me, I have no
hungry?
problem. I have no
Mm-hmm.
problem being like, I want 5 appetizers because I want one each. Right? But it's taken me a long time to get there. And every now and then I'll look around like, is anyone else ordering? Oh my gosh, right? I'll have that knee-jerk reaction of instinct. But if you ask a group of teenage boys, the answer is yes. They don't even look at each other. They probably don't even bat their eye and look away from the TV.
They
It's,
come
yeah,
in looking
sure.
for food,
They don't even
right?
know what the hell it is. It's like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Women are like, oh, I don't know. Well, what did I have today?
It's
Well,
like, girl, if you want to eat, just eat the food,
I
Anna
don't want
May,
to be a
right?
bother, right? Like
Right.
all these things show up for us when we're at a restaurant. It's like kind of the joke. Women can't go to the bathroom on their own. There's
Right.
different reasons why we don't go to the bathroom on our own. It could be safety. It could be because I want to gossip about the people at the table. I need
Mhm.
someone to tell me, is this looking okay right now?
Right.
I need someone to get the toilet paper off my shoe. I mean, things like that. But it is very often that I've even caught myself where I look around, hey, does anyone else have to? Because I want someone to validate that I got to do it. So we put that validation, that confirmation outside of ourselves, that power.
Right. I remember earlier when you were talking about just turning 30, losing your mother, right?
Mm-hmm.
Going to Hawaii. Do you remember how old your mom was when she passed after the car
I
accident?
was just thinking about that, and I
Yeah.
think she was just before 50. 48 is sticking out in my mind. I
So
feel like
young. So we're
48,
within
49.
like that decade range of being her age. Did she live a life that was kind of free? Do you feel like you learned some of that facet from like the aspects of your personality from her? Or do you feel like her passing away early when you were so much younger, do you feel like that kind of pushed you forward and made you want to kind of be more adventurous and not lose time?
I think it's a mix of everything, if I'm honest. You have my mom was what we describe now. And here's the thing too, when people pass away early, you get to see them and like put them in whatever light you want to. And
Yeah.
so for me, I put her in the hippy dippy light. She really was. She was very um went with it, very much so, like to the point of like having animals in the house because she just wanted to have them in there. So she didn't really think about tomorrow. She just thought about today. She also parented that way, and I've got great memories. But as a parent, I'm like, what were you thinking? Where she would wake me up in the middle of the night and let's go look at the moon, and really connect me with nature. And when the black raspberries are blooming, we'd go and find them and go on a hike, you know. But I'm like, as an adult and as a citizen now, I'm like, oh, that was someone else's property. You know, you're a little
That's
bit more
such a
mindful
dope
with these things.
memory. Yeah.
You know, but I mean, but they're classic, amazing memories. As a parent, she taught me some stuff. I had one of my children was in timeout because they were being naughty, and they ripped the wallpaper in the corner. And I was ready to like eat their face because how disrespectful. Like I was ready to come be authoritarian parent. And here comes my mom. She goes, I hated that wallpaper, and rips the rest of it off. And I'm like, well, I guess that's the thing, huh? That's a better memory than the one I was getting ready to implement on my child. And so she did show up in really good ways like that. When it came down to it, it was, this is what we're going to do now. Being a young teenage mom, just knowing I was not chastised. I was not criticized. It was, okay, so we're having a baby and you just move on with it. So for having, you know, and then having a father on the other side that's like white glove, everything better be clean.
Mhm.
If it was not, the whole house was destroyed and you were going to put it back together, you know, in some of the yucky times. And granted, my dad was also impulsive because I remember shooting fireworks at each other, like literally shooting fireworks at each other. You know, we would sit there and my dad and I prank call. Well, hopefully this never goes that viral, but we would sit there and prank call the brothers, the uncles, and they still to this day think the other person did it. So started their own prank wars. You know, so I had really good parents that were children. They were
Yeah.
children for parents. They did the best with the tools that they had. And then luckily we live in a society now where I have better tools and I'm trying to parent differently. But as far as who I was in Hawaii, I think part of it was from being in a very broken family and being the youngest of all of them. It was just kind of like fall in line, and I didn't fall in line. So it's like,
Yeah.
she's not doing anything that's going to hurt herself too bad. So it was just easier. It was more so I was tolerated a lot of it.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, I didn't even know how to read until third grade because nobody sat down with me to teach me to read.
Wow. I didn't
Yeah.
even know that about
Oh, I'm
wow.
really good I'm good at
Yeah.
faking. Yeah. Photographic memory. I was really good. I sit there and read and describe the pictures on there. It wasn't until I moved into a new school that you had to read group circles and you had to read out loud that I was like, the
You
cat jumped.
couldn't fake your way through it anymore. Yeah.
I did, yeah. I couldn't fake it anymore. But then I caught on really quick, and then you know when it got brought to attention that I didn't know, I knew how to listen very well. I could paint really good pictures. I was
Mhm.
talented in other ways, but I just didn't know how to read because nobody sat down to teach me to read. You know, so it was one of those things, and I think that living with parents who didn't make the best choices for their life, societal wise, helped me learn to not live with a stigma. I only learned that there was a stigma based on other people's decisions and other
Mhm.
people's thoughts of our family and their lifestyle. And I think that just allowed me having people who just accepted, I'm an alcoholic, I'm a drug addict. You're like, oh,
Mhm.
okay, well you are. And so just living with that, it allows you to accept some of the things that we typically deny our whole life, right? And that's what a lot of people do. They'll deny that. They'll deny that about themselves. They'll deny that they're an adulterer. Lie,
Yeah.
lie, 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 lie. Why do they adult? Well, adultery-ish. What is that called? I don't
Like, we'll just create a new word. You said
know. Yeah.
romantical earlier, and that's my
What is
word.
it
I
that
feel like
they're
I created
missing
that.
something, right? Everyone's got
Yeah.
a different reason for the choices that they make in their life. The chances are you're out there searching for something. But the day you recognize you are completely fucking whole, nobody else completes that. No one else's decisions or thoughts are ever going to
No
complete
more,
that.
you don't have to
And
search.
you get to decide,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like you are whole. And I used to be the whole Cinderella and thinking that guy in there was, you know, he's my other half. I'm like, well, fuck, that means I'm walking around halfway missing all the time.
That is hello. That is a whole different. Now you want to pause that because that is a whole different
Yeah.
podcast. That right there is a whole. We could spend 2 hours on that of the
Yeah.
importance of having your own identity prior to being any kind of in a
Yeah.
relationship and having an expectation that somebody else is going to make you happy. No, I don't want you coming to me half full. Like
Yeah.
I want the
Yeah.
best.
You
Yeah, and
and
then
only
it
you
also
can do that. Only
right.
you can fill your cup. I think so
Mhm.
what leads to my impulsivity, if you will, or my impulsive
Mhm.
choices and my undefined and my wild, if you will, is I grew up in an unstable life. The next day was not promised. Where you were going to sleep, if you had power, if you had food, was not promised. We grew up in a life of scarcity. I had examples of awesomeness from my grandparents that lived farm to table, and I had that appreciation and great
Right.
seeds planted. I saw commitment, I saw loyalty, I saw love for my parents, definitely, but it didn't look like the way the storybooks tell you. Marriage didn't look the way that the story would tell you, that Cinderella story is, you know? And so growing up in that, I think it empowered and it allowed me to just accept, well, I'm going to be who I am, especially growing up in a small town. It's like high school thing was like, I think I graduated with like 50 some people. Everybody thought something about me. Everybody. And ain't nobody knew me. Nobody knew me. So that was the fun part. I was like, well, I'm a bitch to them. I'm a hooker to them. I'm gay to this group. How did that happen? I don't know. How can I be a slut and lesbian at the same time?
You
I
are
don't know.
all things, Mandy. You are all things.
I really was. I was too masculine. I was too much. I was too loud. I was too smart. I was too dumb. Like, and so being in that little microcosm, before even entering the world, I'm like, yeah, you can't make everybody happy. Might as well make myself happy. So it
Right.
helped a lot.
It's a beautiful lesson. I'm so happy that you decided to come on today and co-host for the first time. We know that you'll be back co-hosting.
Yeah.
First of all, can I just say I love that shirt? Big chick energy, because I feel
I'm
like you have. And if you like it, jump on the HDU website and get yourself one. So I've decided anytime I have a co-host or anytime we have a guest, I want to throw out some rapid fire questions. So I've got 3. So the first one I want to ask is, what do you love?
Ooh, I love experiences. And that if I could sum up in a word, it's an experience. Whether it's good or bad, I love a food experience. Sex, I love sex. I love fighting. I love Brazilian jiu-jitsu and getting my body slammed on the ground and the shit kicked out of me because I learn really quick. I was just in my room today and putting the boys' clothes away and just crying because I miss life the way it was. Like, I love being able to experience every emotion in its fullness, because too often I'm always living in the future. So I miss the now, because I'm like, tomorrow I got to this and this week I got to do that. And so I never actually feel what I'm feeling in that moment. So if I can have an experience of like a blue cheese encrusted steak melt on my tongue, I'm going to enjoy that experience. I'm saying, I know what I'm having for dinner, but experiences are what I love.
All right. What brings you peace?
Nature. Nature brings me peace. Getting lost away from technology, from things, getting lost in the woods, and then being able to get back to my primitive side to determine what direction and to orient myself with nature and the earth and where I stand. That is peaceful to me. It's not panic, it's peace.
And final question, what's on your nightstand?
There's a couple things on there.
Should we say PG? No, all ratings open.
Always a bottle of water. Always. A stack of books I have yet to read. And lube. There's always lube somewhere within hand distance. You gotta have it.
In the drawer. That's in the drawer.
I think it still might be on the top right now. I don't think I did the in the drawer put away. It's a Sunday. I got to sleep in. You get set for the mood. I'm just saying. So I'm pretty confident it's probably still on my nightstand in that too.
I was not expecting that last one. But I thoroughly love it. I love you.
See, I'm hydrated. I'm physically healthy. And I'm feeding my legs.
What do we say? Are you drinking nutrition? Are you drinking your water? Are you sleeping? And are you having sex? Those are the most important things to keep yourself together, right?
You have to.
I love you. I appreciate you so, so much. And I cannot wait for everybody to kind of get to know you the way that I know you and the way that I see you, because I think you are beautifully phenomenal. And I'm so excited that you came on and co-hosted with me today. And we're going to close up like we always do. Just remember that you are inherently worthy, regardless of financial status, regardless of your crazy, quote unquote, regardless of what you do, how much you make, how you title yourself. You are inherently worthy. We see you and we love you. And don't forget, if something we said today spoke to you in any way, please subscribe and keep up with what we are doing. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye.